Welcome to Ditch the Nerves, a podcast where you keep calm and lead on. I am Madhurantika Maulik, your host for this episode of Ditch the Nerves. Today, we are honored to welcome our guest, distinguished Toastmaster Morag Mathieson, 2023-24 International President of Toastmasters International. She is only the second ever president from Europe and notably the first woman from outside North America to ever hold the role. A Toastmaster, since 2006, Morag is a professional development consultant, board chair of Living Water Germany charity, and a passionate advocate of inclusive leadership. She is here today with us to share how Toastmasters shaped her journey, her leadership philosophy, and the lessons she is taking into the future. Welcome, distinguished Toastmaster Morag Mathieson, to Ditch the Nerves.
Thank you so much for having me today.
You have been with Toastmasters since 2006 and rose all the way to become the international president. What was that moment when you realized the power and opportunity that Toastmasters offers to build your entire leadership journey?
I think I probably realised that fairly early on. And I say that when I think of past district directors in my home district. I think role models play a powerful part in our journeys. And I can think of two women in particular, Ellen Hermans and Barbara Herger, who were district governors at the time district directors today, in my home district before me. And watching their journey and seeing, oh my goodness, how they've grown as leaders, how they've grown in confidence, and also seeing that they had the power to change things and to make a difference and really cause their part of the organisation to evolve and to move forward. And I think that's probably the time when I first began to realise that when we take on significant leadership in Toastmasters, there is definitely power, and with great power comes great responsibility, but also huge opportunity. And that's the opportunity to evolve and develop the organisation, or you're part of it, and also yourself.
Indeed, Toastmasters, it has so many examples of excellent leadership personalities, and you are one of them, and you have been inspiring so many of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
One phrase that we have often heard you mention is never close the circle, and you have emphasized inclusive leadership. Can you tell us about a particular situation maybe where making somebody feel included, perhaps across cultural or language barriers, made a real difference?
I think of one particular situation that still stays with me powerfully, and it was of a guest who came to my home club. And this lady arrived walking on crutches, really struggling to move. And she came to the meeting, and after the meeting in my home club, we always go for dinner afterwards in a local restaurant. And she came with us, and she had lots of questions about the meeting. And then she said that she had actually visited the club a few months before, and she'd had a terrible accident that had caused her life-limiting injuries. But she had decided that it had been a good place in her experience, her short exposure to us previously, and she felt maybe this would help her as she was adapting to a new life. And it took her 6 months to actually decide to join the club because she had so many questions. And after each meeting, when we would go for dinner, she would have more questions. And I still remember one particular evening, there had been a member of the club who'd given a speech and been given feedback about how they moved on stage and they could move more and so on. And she said, would that be the kind of feedback I would be given if I gave a speech in the club? And I looked at her and I said, well, I can't say what any other evaluator would say, but I would hope that we always took into account the speaker, not just what other speakers do, but that speaker. And she did decide to join. And I still remember she would always take roles like timer or accounter or grammarian, where she could sit at her place and deliver the role. And one day I said to her, why don't you be table topics master for the next meeting? And she said, I don't know if I can. And I said to her, well, I'm going to be Toastmaster and it's my job to help you. And she said, okay. And we worked out a way whereby she could be seated but still in control. Members who were taking the stage could come and shake hands with her. And there was no doubt that she was in charge of the stage at that point. And I will always remember at the end of that meeting, she picked up the agenda and she just looked at where her name was written against that role. And she smiled because she realised that nothing was out of bounds with the right support and with the community gathering around her. And that for me is one of those very powerful examples of how we need to make a way for people and how we help them to be part of what we are doing so that they can grow in their own lives.
Thank you so much, Morag. This is such a powerful and a touching story. And what a beautiful example of how small changes, small gestures can make such impactful changes in people's lives. Thank you so much for this story. You have always said that growth is in confidence is the biggest single benefit from Toastmasters, and which is also true of the example you just shared. How did the confidence and the skills that you developed in Toastmasters empower you to take on these bigger, broader roles in Toastmasters?
I think so many things are achieved by small steps. If you knew me a number of years ago, I would say before Toastmasters, you would have found actually quite a shy individual who never really liked to say, oh, I'm good at this, I can do this, and would wait to be asked to do things rather than putting her hand up. And I found, for me, I became part of Toastmasters when I moved from the UK to Germany. And settling into a new community, Toastmasters really became quite critical to me in growing my confidence to be part of a different kind of culture, to learn another language and to be competent in that language. And for me, that led to me taking up the chairmanship of a charity here where everything I deal with is in a foreign language with foreign systems and foreign culture. And feeling more comfortable with that, it then tells you, I can do this. And so then you have the confidence to put your hand up for the next role. And that was a huge thing for me each step of the way when I first decided to put myself forward as a candidate for international director, and then discovering I could do this role. I am really ready for the next role. And I think it's that step by step and having people around you who mentor you, who encourage you. Encouraging each other is such an important part of what we do. You know, if I am not sure whether I can or not, those words of encouragement from someone who can say, I saw you do this. I thought that was great. Please do more, can really make the difference.
Absolutely. I think Toastmasters has a beautiful ecosystem where whether it's a person joining Toastmasters or a person even in the most senior positions in Toastmasters has a beautiful support system. I think we're really fortunate for that. And thanks to leaders like you who have further only strengthened it into the system. A very specific example that you were part of is, of course, as the international president during the post-pandemic era, and where you guided Toastmasters through a very critical period of recovery. And I think this was a very unique occasion. What were some of the leadership lessons that you learned from this crisis, which, of course, has also been of help in various other crisis moments or leadership challenges?
Yeah. I came on to the executive committee of the board as second vice president in 2020, right at the height of the pandemic. And I saw leaders who were having to make really tough decisions and having to be part of that, leading the organisation. What would we do next? And we had such concern for our members and our leaders. It was tough. Decision making is not easy. And I think what I really learned as we moved through that season of the world becoming safer or perceived to be safer, as well as all the struggles that everyone had gone through. I would say my big takeaway is the importance of, at the same time, focusing on the mission that you have, whether that's your club mission, district mission, Toastmasters International mission, and at the same time, taking care of your people. It's finding that balance, because the mission is great, but unless you have the people to go with you on that journey, you will never achieve it. But people need to be well taken care of. I also would say there was a time when we had to say, instead of just being about, well, let's just hope we get through this, there had to come a point where we say, what is our strategy to overcome this? How will we move forward? Because we cannot stay in that place of, it's been difficult, we've lost people are struggling. We can't stay there. As leaders, we have to lead the way forward. And I think the best way is always that. Focus on your mission. What are you here to do? And take care of your people as they go on that journey with you.
Yes, when we talk about leadership, we often talk about the leader, but I think it's more about the people that the leader is leading. That's a very important focus that you mentioned. Thank you. And finally, as we close this episode, what would be that one piece of advice that you would want to give to Toastmasters, particularly those who are thinking or just about stepping into leadership roles and believing that it is actually possible?
I think what I'd say is you only need to take one step at a time. When I was thinking of running for second vice president and knowing that that would be the beginning of a 5-year journey on the board and the executive committee and board, and 4 years away from being president, I had that crisis of confidence. Can I do this? And I spoke with our CEO and asked for his advice. Do you think I'm ready for this? And he said to me, no second vice president is ever ready to be president. But when the time comes, they are always ready, because there is that process of moving step by step through leadership. And I think that's so important for us to remember. You only need to take one step at a time to get onto the course that you need to be on. So if you aspire to be the director of your district one day, you need to start by being a leader in your club first. And no club president is suddenly ready to be the district director. You may have experiences outside Toastmasters that position you to be more ready than some other people, but trust the process and take it one step at a time and celebrate your wins and successes as you go, and reflect on how it can be even better next time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that's a very good message on taking the step. And also what you just mentioned, celebrating the wins, even if it's the smallest wins. I think that's what helps you really understand your potential and taking it further from there. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Ditch the Nerves, Distinguished Toastmaster Morag Mathieson. And thank you to the audience for joining us for this inspiring conversation with Morag. I hope this episode leaves a mark on you as much it has on me through this advice that we got from her, from the stories that she shared, and reminding us of the power of inclusive leadership and the courage to just step up. Keep calm and ditch the nerves. Until next time. Thank you.